In 1995, a psychologist named Elizabeth Loftus sat a group of ordinary adults down and asked them to remember their childhood. She handed each of them a booklet. Inside were 4 short stories about things that had happened to them when they were 5 or 6 years old. 3 of the stories were true, confirmed by their own parents. One of them was completely made up. And by the end of the experiment, 1/4 of these people could remember in vivid detail something that had never happened to them. They could describe the mall, the old woman who found them crying, the flannel shirt she was wearing. None of it was real. Their brains had built the memory anyway. Today, we're going to look at how that's possible, what it means for you, and why it ended up changing the way courts treat human memory forever. Here's the assumption most of us carry around, that memory is like a video camera. Something happens, your brain hits record, and later you press play. The footage might get a little grainy, but it's the same tape. Elizabeth Loftus spent 50 years proving that this is almost entirely wrong. Memory isn't a recording, it's a reconstruction. Every single time you remember something, your brain is rebuilding that event from pieces, and it's willing to use whatever pieces are lying around, including information that arrived after the event was over. Loftus first showed this in 1974 in a study so simple it's almost ridiculous. She showed people short films of car accidents. Then she asked them one question about how fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other. For another group, she swapped one word, hit. That was the entire experiment, one word. The people who heard smashed estimated the cars were going significantly faster, around 41 miles per hour. The people who heard hit said closer to 34. Same film, same crash. One word changed their memory of how fast the cars were moving. But here's where it gets strange. A week later, she asked all of them the same follow-up question. Did you see any broken glass? There was no broken glass in the film. There never was. The people who'd heard smashed were more than twice as likely to say yes. They'd not only remembered the crash as faster, they'd invented a detail that was never there. One word, planted after the event, had rewritten the memory itself. Loftus called this the misinformation effect. When information you encounter after an event gets woven into your memory of the event itself. She went on to run over 200 experiments on more than 20,000 people, documenting it. But changing a detail of a real memory is one thing. Loftus wanted to know something more disturbing. Could you plant a memory of something that never happened at all? The idea started almost as a class assignment. One of Loftus's undergraduate students, Jim Cohn, wanted to see if he could plant a false memory in his own family. He put together a booklet of 4 childhood stories. 3 were real events from his brother's childhood. The 4th was fake, a story about his brother getting lost in a shopping mall around age 5, crying, being found by an elderly person, and reunited with the family. He gave the booklet to his 14-year-old brother and asked him to write down everything he could remember. Over the next few days, something remarkable happened. The brother started adding details. The old man's baldness, his glasses, his flannel shirt. Sensory details that were never in the original story. When Cohn finally told his brother that one of the 4 stories was fake, could he guess which one? His brother couldn't. He believed all 4. The memory felt as real to him as the true ones.
Loftus heard the recording of that interview and knew she had something. She refined the method with her colleague, Jacqueline Pickrell, and ran it properly. 24 participants. Each one got a booklet with 3 true childhood stories and 1 false one. Getting lost in a shopping mall as a child, being found by an elderly woman and returned to their parents. Over a series of interviews, about 25% of them developed a clear false memory of the event. They didn't just accept the story, They remembered it. They added sensory details. They described the store, the feelings, the woman's appearance, things the researchers had never mentioned. And here's the part that should unsettle you. When they were finally told the truth, that one memory was invented, some of them still didn't believe it. The memory had become so real, so vivid, so theirs, that they couldn't let it go. This wasn't a fringe result. In 2023, a team in Ireland ran a much larger, pre-registered replication. 123 participants, 5 times the original sample. They found the effect again. This time, 35% developed false beliefs or memories. A meta-analysis Loftus presented at the Nobel Prize Summit in 2023 pooled data across these studies. About 30% of people developed a full false memory. Another 23% developed a false belief. That means, across the research, a substantial minority of ordinary, healthy adults developed a full false memory, and an additional group developed false beliefs under the structured suggestive conditions of these experiments. Think about that for a second. Not half of people with bad memory, not half of children, half of ordinary adults. And the memory didn't feel fragile, it felt certain. So why does the brain do this? Why would evolution give us a memory that just makes things up? Because memory was never built to be a perfect record. It was built to be useful. Your brain's priority isn't accuracy, it's coherence. When there's a gap in what you remember, and there's almost always a gap, your brain fills it in with whatever's plausible, whatever's been suggested to you, whatever fits the story. And it does it so smoothly that you can't tell the difference between the parts you actually experienced and the parts it invented. Loftus found there's essentially a recipe for planting a false memory. First, you need trust, a parent, a therapist, an authority figure, someone whose word you wouldn't question. Then you need a suggestion that's plausible, not you were abducted by aliens, something ordinary, getting lost in a mall as a child. Then you add supporting detail that makes it feel real, a specific store, a specific age. And finally, repetition. You revisit the memory, you talk about it, you write it down, and each time, the false detail gets a little more solid, a little more yours. This is why leading questions are so dangerous. It's why a therapist who asks, "Do you think you might have been abused?" is not a neutral question. It's why a police officer who says, "The suspect had a beard, right?" is not a neutral question. Every one of those suggestions is raw material your brain can use to rebuild the memory, and it will. Now, before you panic that none of your memories are real, there's an important nuance. You can't plant just any memory. People won't easily come to believe something wildly implausible or emotionally impossible. The false memory has to fit. It has to be the kind of thing that could have happened. So your memory isn't pure fiction, but it's also not the recording you thought it was. It's a reconstruction that's constantly being edited, and it's open to suggestion in ways you'd never expect.
Here's why this research left the laboratory and changed the world. For most of human history, eyewitness testimony was treated as the gold standard of evidence. Someone saw it with their own eyes. What could be more reliable? Loftus's work showed that an eyewitness can be completely sincere and completely wrong, that the questions they're asked, the information they're exposed to afterward, even a single word, smashed instead of hit, can rewrite what they remember seeing. She testified as an expert witness in hundreds of cases. Her research contributed to a 2014 National Research Council report that endorsed evidence-based lineup procedures, the kind of reforms designed to stop police from accidentally planting memories in witnesses through leading questions. This research helped drive reforms intended to reduce wrongful convictions, changing how lineups and witness interviews are conducted. And the reason it matters isn't just in courtrooms. It matters in your life. Think about an argument you had where you and the other person remember the same event completely differently. You're probably both telling the truth as your brains reconstructed it. Think about a childhood memory that's actually a story your parents told you so many times it became yours. Think about how easily a suggestion from a friend, a headline, an ad could slip into what you remember. Your memory is not a vault. It's a story your brain keeps rewriting, and it doesn't always tell you when it's changed a sentence. The next time a memory feels absolutely certain, pause. Ask yourself, is this something I actually remember, or is it something I've been told so many times that it became mine? If this changed how you think about your own mind, subscribe. Next time we're looking at the single word that can turn an honest witness into a confident liar, and the experiment that proved it. I'll see you then.